What's happening, folks? I'm Tommy, and you are on the Lifeboat. Hope you're having a hell of a Thursday. Heather, good to see you. Glad you're here. Blessed to Crochet. What's happening? Sweet Liberty, you doing all right? Sandy, Wendy, Jason, Allison, Metcalf, Palumbo is here. I'm glad that you're here. Shannon Smith, Kristen Melinda. Glad you're here. Kestrel, how are you, Kestrel? Indigo Twin, good to see you. Kestrel, you'll be happy to know. Hello, Anna. You'll be happy to know I'm not coming after your particular kratom. Kathy, good to see you. Incarnasoul, how are you? I am just going to report on this stuff. You're going to find I'm not much anti anything. Helena, flock of swan boats. How are you? Yeah, he's a beast, isn't he? That's a great question. See that? That's what happens when you're a super mod. Tony Hoven, how are you? Glad to have you here. Glad that you are here. Heather said she's growing a little cannabis. We're not mad at you, Heather. Zalstorm, good to see you. Oh, just teasing me, Castro? Well, I'll tell you something. Every time I do one of these shows, I get a decent number of people who are actually on this stuff. Also, hi, and I was supposed to be asleep and recovering from the flu, but I can't sleep. Oh, well, I'm glad that you're here with us. Hope you're feeling better. Thoughts and prayers going out to Helena. Wow. See that? Had to do a quick Google. Wasn't sure what kratom was. Well, it'll be interesting to see if what a job I do compared to my boss, right? The people that own Google happen to own this the big red button. That's the parent company. Quibs always tells people that she works for Google because telling the people that you have a YouTube channel, they look at you like, my nephew has one of those. I have a high school kid in high school. My family, he's got one of those too. Lena, how are you? Lena in love, good to see you. Jane Aldrich, how are you? Hey, Taylor Miller. Jay Rambo finally made a live. Been a while. Hi, all. Well, it's good to have you here. We love it when you make a live. I mean that. Oh, look at that. Helena, flock of swan boats, also has never heard of it. Diane, how are you? Never heard of it. Whine a little bit more. But it is $1 billion a year industry here, people. Billion with a B. That's a hell of a lot of money right there. That is a hell of a lot of money. Kratom is actually closest probably to coffee. It is a tree. And the leaves of this tree have been used to make all kinds of crap out of tea, whatnot, for a really, really long time. Right? Going back a long, long way. And by all accounts, it's been used very safely for a very long time. Right? Then enter America. Because if you let us near anything that hasn't been causing problems for people for a long time, we'll turn it into a much stronger version of the drug and we'll have people overdosing on it in no time. All right? Look at what we've done with the morphine molecule since we discovered it. Right? Morphine wasn't a good enough painkiller. Took too long. Can you imagine? Put that stuff into a vein. I promise you it doesn't take long for morphine to do what it does. But it took too long. So the good people at Bayer came up with the patent for heroin. Diacetylmorphine. Little different in the chemistry, but it allowed it to pass the blood-brain barrier. So it hits you way faster. Because waiting that couple of seconds for relief could be a real pain in the ass. Anywho, we get a hold of things and we really twist them. What do you know? I caught a live, says Annika's mom. Well, we're glad that you did. We really are. We're glad that you did. It's always more fun to catch it live. And to the replay crew, I love you guys. I wish you could all catch it live because it is fun. We screw around. Pharmaceutical Industry came along and broke it, right? Well, in this one, as of right now, the big pharma would like to get a hold of kratom, whatever you call it. I kind of like to throw a finger up and say kratom because I've spoken with somebody who is actually an advocate. Like this cat works for the Kratom Association or the Kratom something of America. Like there is an association of people who push this stuff. And somebody from that organization reached out to me once to tell me that this stuff 8 bullets, peed ice cubes, and walked on water, right? That this is the greatest substance known to man. It cures everything. It sounded like the guy from Outlaw Josie Wales. Blast from the past. Good to see it. Does anybody get that reference? Huh? How is it on Stains? Anybody? Anybody? I don't know. I could be doing this show to myself. I'm kind of, it happens. It really does. Rose Toes, how are you? Sometimes the greatest jokes I come up with land solidly only on me. Pharma industry not interested in stuff that they can't patent and hold exclusive rights on. Well, I'll tell you what, it's a pretty interesting thing to say. And you know something? You're darn right. If they can't make a buck on it, not a lot of money and stuff like that, as far as they're concerned. You know why they're taking a look at Kratom now? Because it's $1 billion a year industry. It's time to start taking a look at it. It's way too much money. In recovery for 13 months, says Eddie. Let's do that one more time. What do you think, Eddie? One more time. The Lifeboat participation trophy for all those out there. And this is the official one. You see there? It says the Lifeboat on it. To everybody out there fighting the good fight every day, it is a better world when you are not enslaved to drugs. By the way, my drug of choice was the morphine molecule. I could not take Kratom. And the reason I couldn't is this particular substance happens to act on the mu receptor in the brain. That would be the same one that Smack worked on. Feel me? Yeah, H, diacetylmorphine, heroin. Exact same receptors. So for me, if I were to take this stuff, it would light a match that probably would start a fire that I know how that one ends. It ends with me in handcuffs, right? Looking at another long prison sentence. Only this time, they're never going to let me out. So Kratom is not on my list of substances to try. By way of full disclosure, I've never done this stuff. I can't tell you how cool it feels to say that. I'm not joking. There's something really cool about saying I've never, ever done this stuff, because I've done just about everything else on planet Earth. But I have never done Kratom. Although this has been around forever, and in Southeast Asia, apparently they've been using it since before Christ. But as it got brought to the United States, we started making this stuff into pills that were cranking push as much in there as you can. And if that didn't work, then we started going to maybe concentrates, right? Concentrates, things like shots. Then they started mixing it with something called kava. And then we did a show on this, remember? There was a beverage that was gaining a whole lot of traction here in the good old US of A. And it was called Feel Free. You remember that? Little blue bottle, Feel Free. Well, now there's a class action lawsuit, apparently, that are going after the people that started that company, because in the beginning, they said there's some kava, and then there's the proprietary blend of other botanicals. They didn't mention that those other botanicals might be habit forming. Say what you will about Kratom, right? If it acts on the mu receptor, a couple of things are going to happen. And one is going to be what? One is going to be that if you don't continue to feed that receptor, it's going to get angry. I know a lot about angry receptors, right? This was the story of my life for a very, very long time. Kathy Knig says, hi, Tommy. I'm so glad I was able to watch your live following Jaguar with A and Sean. Yeah, I really appreciate your thoughts after watching Sean's channel with Jaguar. Why, thank you. What a kind thing to say. I really appreciate that. That's, I'll tell you what, just real quickly, right? Let's give a shout out real quickly to my friends over at the Sean Atwood program. Shane, this was absolutely incredible. Shane and Sean put on a show today. I don't know if you guys didn't catch this. They carried 12,000 people in the live chat. It got bigger than that at one time or another. But what I mean is they maintained 12,000 people for about, 75 minutes. Man, oh man, that is, I'm not sure. Unless you kind of understand what people do sitting in front of a microphone and trying to get people to pay attention. In a world of today where the average attention span is about 3 minutes, keeping that many people watching you, right, for over an hour and 15 minutes is otherworldly, man. Oh, speak of the devil. What's happening? What's happening? Great. It's an honor to have you here, my brother. The Angel Rock says, congratulations, Eddie. Shane, thank you so much, man. Amazing job. I'm telling you, that was one of that was one of those things that you walk away from and go, holy crap. I mean, that was just one of those shows, people. It really was. If you haven't caught it, you're going to want to make sure that you did. Okay? Go back and see that thing because it's going to blow your mind. So just quickly, this is one of those situations that I'm not trying to be the Commander Buzzkill. I'm not. Buzz Killington. But what's happened is this substance, Feel Free, right? Feel Free is ugly stuff, man. It's ugly stuff. The combination of kava and kratom has created an entire group of people in this country that are addicted to this stuff, that they're buying at 7-Eleven and at other, bodegas and head shops and places like that. And they're buying this crap like this because they're started out like everything else, man. I used to do a little, but a little wouldn't do it. So the little got more and more. You understand the concept? I just keep trying to get a little better. Mo love, a little better than before. It's the same receptors, people, right? Whether it's Mr. Brownstone or whether you're buying Feel Free. Doesn't that have a lovely sound to it, huh? You're not taking alcohol. This was something that was going to be instead of alcohol, right? Feel Free. Stuff was just going to set your mind at ease. Don't keep taking that evil alcohol, right? Try this kava and blend of botanicals. It doesn't say that anymore. Now they're telling you what's in it because, that blend, by the way, it's addicting. By the way, every time you take it, especially in higher doses, it's smacking the crap out of your MU receptor, which is releasing stuff into your body that's what H does, right? H does the same thing, goes and smacks around the MU receptor. So for the love of God, how anybody thinks this isn't going to be a problem, right? This should make sense to everybody. I'm not trying to bust anyone's chops here. This should make sense to everybody. Every time I do this show, someone will say, it's a better alternative than Fent. You betcha it is. You betcha. If you're doing kratom instead of Fent, that's fantastic, right? Honestly, hats off to you. But take the next step. For real, take the next step. This is an MU receptor problem. Get medical assisted treatment. Oh yeah, it works for this stuff. It works for anything that you're tickling the MU receptor with, because what this is going to do is go in and coat that receptor, right? Stop all this stuff from happening. I asked my sister about kratom a couple of years ago after hearing how wonderful it was supposed to be. I asked my sister who works in addiction about it and was told, I'll tell you something. Here's what's up. Here's what's up. There is, something, I saw I was going to talk about this, and I will later. Jake Hudson did a song about the Lifeboat, and I'm absolutely touched. I really am absolutely touched. I was going to mention that later. Blessed to Crochet, thank you. Yeah, that's what Jake did is absolutely incredible. Sadly, kratom is flying under the radar to most people. Where I live, you type the word kratom into your phone, the Kratom Cafe is going to pop up, and that's one clever name, and there's about 9 places in this town that I could get to in 15 minutes that have the word kratom big as hell on the side of the building. We're not talking about people that are peddling this stuff at a gas station. So after you get a little gas, and a beef jerky, you buy a bottle of Feel Free. I'm talking about a building where everything in it is dedicated to kratom, different kinds, including something called black kratom oil. I don't know if you're hip to this. It's marketed under a name. It's like 3 letters. OP. It's escaping me. Sorry, people. But the Food and Drug Administration came out and said, hey, don't take this stuff. Don't take it. There have been deaths linked to this. I'm going to get hate mail. I'm going to get hate mail. And they're going to say, there's never been a case where someone who overdosed on this stuff also didn't have an opiate in their system or a ton of alcohol in their system. And everyone knows, or a benzo, anytime you mix respiratory depressants, your odds of checking off out of planet Earth are pretty damn good. So if you take an opiate and you take alcohol, those are 2 respiratory depressants, throw in a benzo, and you pretty much are trying to punch your own ticket, right? That's a very dangerous combo. And the argument is always nobody overdoses on kratom alone. Wrong. All right. Now in this country, there have been 6 people who have listed the cause of death. And I never say the word right, but what is it? Mitragyn, it's Mitragynine. Mitragynine. I don't know. Honestly, it's a drug I never got high on. There was no reason to study it. But anyway, they are saying that cause of death is that toxicity, right? You can read it. This is an easy research. But the cause of death is kratom toxicity, the main chemical in kratom, toxicity, right? Toxicity, you overloaded your body with. It's like water toxicity. Those people that drink water for competitions or get hazing at a fraternity, got to drink 10 gallons of water. And, what happens is it shuts down all the water goes directly to the kidneys, and your liver can't get anything out, and the poisons stay in. It's terrible, terrible concept, really terrible concept. But Kestrel says Kratom is definitely better than opioids. I won't argue that. I will not argue that, right? However, I promise you the next step would be to get off of that stuff. This is an addictive substance. This is a physically addictive substance. Does that mean that everyone who does it is going to get addicted to it? No. But it means everybody who does it for a long period of time is going to get addicted to it, right? Physically, you're going to develop dependence. Then maybe after you quit and get sick and go through all that, you go, "Ooh, I'm never going to do that again." But if you have that gene, if you have that little switch in your brain like the rest of us, it's going to be a lot harder than that, right? There's a difference between addiction and dependence. Shane says, I took Kratom for a while to get off opioids. Didn't work, unfortunately, but never done the street shit. I'm lying in a hospital bed in a nursing home right now, half paralyzed and a bad back. Opioids help, sadly. You know something? Don't beat yourself up for saying that opioids help. I don't care whether you believe in God or you don't believe in God, or you think we crawled out of a puddle or we came here from panspermia on a rock or whatever. We have an opioid receptor in our body, right? I'm of the firm belief it was put there because there are things that happen to our body that are too much to handle without having something to take away that pain, which is why we have those receptors in our bodies, right? To me, that's cut and dry. Makes a lot of sense. And not only do I not have a problem with people doing opioids, I don't have a problem with people who are dependent on them. I can't tell you the number of people I know whose options are you're going to live with pain every day for the rest of your life, or you're going to live dependent on opiates every day for the rest of your life. Choice is up to you. If I'm going to be addicted to one or the other, I don't think pain would be what I would want to be addicted to. Again, not an option for me, because if the doctor puts on the side of the bottle, take 4 pills once a day, not going to happen, right? I'm going to take 6 to 8 pills, and I'm going to take it 3 to 4 times a day because that's how my brain rolls. And I'll continue and I'll gain speed. But the number of people that I've talked to who have had the exact same thing happen with Kratom, one of the saddest interviews that never happened on the Lifeboat was in the first season of doing this channel, and I was still in Northern Nevada. I met a guy who was a businessman in the town of Reno, and he owned about 7 businesses that most people from Reno would hear of, would have instantly know what I was talking about if I said any of these businesses. He's a well-known guy, and he got addicted to this stuff. Said he was doing about $250 worth of Kratom a day, and he was getting it in liquid shot form that came in what looked like a giant syringe. I went and met the guy for lunch, and he took this thing out. It was like a giant syringe, and you could squeeze it into liquid, or you could go straight in your mouth. He said it tastes so bad you wouldn't want to put it in liquid because you just want to get it down as fast as possible. But he was buying these things by the case, and $250 a day habit. I mean, that's impressive. No matter whatever drug you're doing, that's a crap load of money to be spending annually on your dope, right? That's horrific. And I said to him, please come on my channel, because I'm going to have a difficult time making people who are, with all due respect, making people who have never seen the hood, right, understand the concept that something like this is sold at a gas station where your kids can go and buy penny candy, right? And Kratom is sold in the same store. This has become such a part of our society that people call it gas station heroin, right? And why not? I mean, it acts on the same receptors. It just makes sense that this is a scary concept. And the fact that we've hit $1 billion. All right, so I got some news for you. This stuff, in terms of regulation, it's the wild, wild west. It's the wild, wild west. We don't know what's getting put in this stuff because a lot of times how it's sold means that it can go under the radar and nobody's really looking at it, right? It's not getting looked at. The Food and Drug Administration isn't taking this stuff and testing it all. So the truth of the matter is you got no idea. You got no idea. You don't know the difference in strengths and potencies. Where are they getting this stuff, right? Where's all this being harvested from? And, you know, does this stuff vary in strength? What's the process? Because I've talked to people who abuse the crap out of this stuff. We have a guy in Florida. Oh, the end of that story was the guy said to me, please help me get off of this stuff, right? Please help me get off this stuff. He said, I will do anything. And I talked to him about Suboxone, and he said to me, that stuff doesn't work. And I said, you've tried it? He said, no, I haven't. But I've talked to people and blah, 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 blah. And to make a long story short, it's the same way it happens all the time. I was actually there with the cat. And the first time he went through and saw the doctor and got the prescription and all that. And he waited until he was deep into the sickness, because you're supposed to wait about 24 to 30 hours. So good and dope sick by this point. And he took the stuff and he said to me after about 15 minutes, nothing. Stuff's not doing anything. And I said, yeah, well, it's not like an instant thing. It takes a long time to get into your system. And about 15 or 20 minutes went by and he goes, nothing. I think I'm going to take another one. I go, no, man, don't take another one. Just give it a little bit longer. And about 20 more minutes went by and he goes, I'm definitely not feeling a thing. I said, are you sick? And the look he got on his face, and I've seen this, I can't tell you how many times now. It's the golden retriever look where they go, you know what I mean? The head kind of kicks and the guy goes, oh my God, I'm not. And I'm like, yeah, you're not going to catch a buzz on this crap, right? You're not, but you're not going to get high in any way, shape or form, but you're not going to get sick. But don't beat yourself up. If you're here and you're taking pain medication, for the love of God, right? If you need pain medication, that's fantastic. Now, if you can't take it the way that they are writing it on the side of the bottle, well, then we're simpatico, right? You're one of us. And sadly, what that means is that you probably cannot control this particular substance. The Trips captain says, I've tried Suboxone before trying Kratom. It doesn't relieve pain. I use Kratom the way you use Suboxone. My mom was against it at first, but now is an active advocate. Here, I'm not going to badmouth anything, right? I don't badmouth blow. Sorry, I don't. If you're addicted to anything, right? If the stuff is ruining your life, right? But if you're taking this as a pain reliever and you're not ramping the hell up, right? I don't see the harm or the foul. And there's a lot of stuff out there that is similar to this, right? Tiana, I'm not going to get this. Zaza Red, sold under the name Zaza Red, under a couple of other names. This is one of those substances that, again, tickles the MU receptor. Unfortunately, we were able to, but if you're not gaining speed, if you're not constantly having to increase, because I'll tell you, if you look at the symptoms of this stuff, right? The problems that you get with addiction and dependency with Kratom mirror that of opiates identically, literally. If you look in the DSM, if you look in a physician's desk reference, or you look at anything, you read what all of the properties, and it makes a hell of a lot of sense, right? I mean, we're tickling the same receptors. You're not tickling them to the same degree, unless you're doing, $250 a concentrate a day. And sadly, there are people getting to that point. The most recent lawsuit against a company that makes the extracts was from a nurse. I believe she was in Florida, but yeah, there we go. There you go. That's the word I couldn't come up with. Well, you know what? It technically no. I mean, it may give that feeling, right? But of the two of them, I think that Kratom actually acts in the body more as the Tianepin was usually used as in France, this stuff was over the counter for a long time. And then they made it prescription, but it is an antidepressant is how it is used in other countries, right? But once again, bring it to America, right? And everybody who advocates for this stuff says it's completely harmless in every country that it's in. Yeah, because they write you a prescription for 20 milligrams of it, right? These guys are taking 14 pills in their hand, right? Washing them down with a Red Bull and going, is that enough? I don't know. I took twice that. Or guys eating entire bottles of this crap in a day. Now, at the lower levels, when you take Kratom, apparently at the lower levels, this has really got more of a coffee kind of an effect. This is how people in other countries have successfully used this stuff for centuries. And it's more of a pick-me-up, kind of like people in South America who chew coca leaves, right? This is a pick-me-up. It's like a wicked strong cup of coffee. But like anything else, if I said, this is a cup of coffee, it has caffeine in it, right? And then I hand you 70 no-dos and go, that's caffeine. Same stuff. You got nothing to worry about. Wash that down with a little bit of Red Bull. Let me know what happens. Right? They're both caffeine. But what happens is in this country, anything that we can abuse, we're going to abuse. And if there's a company out there that's making something that's 100x strength, there will be a company out there by Friday that's doing 150. And then somebody, it's like the Diddy news. I'm sorry, everybody, but it's the exact same thing, right? We're that country. It really starts picking up momentum. Kratom does not show on any normal drug test, urine or hair. You absolutely can test for Kratom, but you have to be testing for Kratom. What they test for is a metabolite, right? When this stuff gets processed out of your body, it gets processed out basically the same way as other opiates. But you're not going to be testing for the substance. You're going to be testing for a metabolite that is left behind after the substance is. And the way I know this is the federal government tests every single inmate that comes out of prison. When you finish a federal sentence, you go on federal probation, right? Doesn't make sense. Usually probation means you're not going to jail. It's like your last chance. That's not how it works in the feds. They should just call it parole. But they decide the day you get sentenced how long you're going to be on probation after you leave prison. For me, it was 3 years. And fortunately, I didn't have to do the entire full year, 3 because I never failed a test or missed anything or did anything wrong. And if you do everything right, you can get off in about 1/2 of the time. But on that test, and one of the first things they told us when we got there was we're testing for Kratom. Funny as hell story. Funny, not haha. But at the time, I was married to the attorney. This was the first time I had gone to federal prison, and I was out. This was the bank robbery time. And I was going to meetings every day. When I got out the last time, I said, take me back to prison. I'm never going to another meeting where you're going to put me in a room with 40 guys who do heroin, right? I'm never going into another room like that ever again. You could take me back to prison. It makes no sense. And you know what the final decision was? You're looking at it. You're looking at it. They said, if you're not going to go to a meeting, then you got to figure something else out. And I said, I'll start a meeting. And honestly, that's about how the Lifeboat came to be. For real. That's a true story. But the time before that, I'm going into these meetings and you've got to make 30 of them in 30 days, or they wanted 90 in 90 days. So as I'm walking in, like on a Monday, they're doing these things and they're shots. Like you rip the top off, it looks like a shot glass. And the faces these dudes are making, I was like, what are you drinking? And the guy goes, it's Kratom. And I'm like, yeah, I never heard of it. He's like, no, this stuff will get you ripped. He's like, it's like H, right? And I said, really? And I go, and they don't test for this stuff? He goes, they do not. If anybody there had said to me, you want to try this? I'd have gone, sure. I guarantee you I would have. But apparently those concentrates are wicked expensive. So nobody there had any interest in breaking bread with Tommy. So I went upstairs, we sat down, and halfway through it's a 2.5-hour meeting. So halfway through this meeting, my probation officer walks in, right? Now, I'm not the brightest bulb, seriously, especially when I'm not doing the right thing. When my head is not in the game, I'm a little slow. So when he walks in, I looked at my probation officer and thought, what have I done? Why would this dude come here right now? It didn't occur to me that I was in a federal, like a room with federal inmates. Like everybody in there was, the odds that there were other people that had the same probation officer. But I looked at him just terrified. And he said, I got a list of names, people we need to, and he just started going down the list. And I'm waiting. Never got to me, never called my name. And everybody got up to walk out of the room. And I said, hey, what's going on? And the counselor said, they all failed for Kratom. I went, holy shite. He said, yep, everybody failed. They were also testing for K2. They were testing for 3 or 4 different chemicals that are sold under the Spice or K2 name. There are 34 panels on a federal test. The ones that I used to take, it was a 34 panel test. And then on top of that, they would test for specific gravity and other hey, Angel Rock. I love that. Shane, it hurts me that you're going through that, my brother. But you know what? What you endured leaves, lingering pain. I honestly, I would feel no guilt. And since we started this thing, the biggest disservice, right, that an H addict does is destroy the odds of getting a doctor to look at you like someone who's in pain. People like me, right? People that got addicted and would go into a doctor's office and bullshit them. I mean, just as whatever lie you had to tell them so that you could walk out of there with a bottle of pills. In the early days, before the computers were really cooking, most guys were going to see 5 doctors at a time, right? The system wasn't catching. As long as you were going to different pharmacies, no one was getting caught doing this. It was called pill shopping or doctor shopping. And it was a friggin' epidemic. But the trouble is, this was pill addicts. These were guys that, so even real pain special, if a guy gets to a pain specialist, that doctor has seen 500, junkies, right? I mean, dope fiends, telling them any lie they got to try to get the biggest bag of oxy that they could possibly get. Then when somebody like Shane goes in and starts to talk about pain, they still got a hangover from the 500 jerk-offs that they saw that have been trying to work them to get extra dope for the last 20 years. That's the reality of pain management, right? Truthfully, that's the reality of pain management. And doctors end up blowing up in one way or the other. And very often they blow up in the direction of, I can give you 14 of these pills a month. And you're going, my God, that's not going to get me through a month, That's the way a lot of doctors go. They really tightened up their grip. They were so afraid that they were going to get busted or that the feds were going to come in. They got panicky. It's the typical knee-jerk reaction. They just stopped writing scripts. Got very, very difficult to get pain medication. It drove everyone to the streets. Now we're doing the knee-jerk reaction, right? They're changing laws. We'll have pill mills again. I promise you. It's the seesaw. We don't do anything in moderation. Everything in this country is a massive knee-jerk reaction. Everybody ran to the streets to get pills, right? So we had to change that. So now doctors are given a lot more latitude treating patients who have pain, right? But again, anytime you let that happen, the people that are going to take advantage of it, take advantage of it. They have let doctors begin to use ketamine and MDMA and psilocybin, cubensis, and all of these different substances from dissociative drugs, trip drugs like acid, right? To try to help people who are suffering with certain types of depression. That's an exciting concept. It's an exciting field that they're opening that up, that they're looking at the brain and going, you know what? Maybe there's a way to use, this stuff that's been growing since the dawn of man that, is kind of natural. Maybe there's a way to treat with this 4 times a year so that you don't have to be on an antidepressant every day or 3 antidepressants or whatever. I love the concept. But as soon as it starts, right, I researched one of these places just because I'm going through it. And I was chasing down every lead you could. And I chased down a ketamine therapy center. And I'll tell you what, man, You bump into someone who's trying to get you into Amway, right? Or you get on a mailing list at the Church of Scientology. You're going to get less people trying to push crap on you than you will get from one of these ketamine doctors. And we saw what happened in Hollywood, where, right, there are people on trial right now for what happened to Matthew Perry, right? We saw the text messages. How much money do you think we can make off this moron? Let's find out. This is a guy that has written a book about addiction. There's nobody in America that doesn't know this cat's stance on addiction, know that what he's wrestled with, alcohol, opiates, all those things. And this guy's first response is, how much do you think we can sell, this stuff for? How much can we take this moron for? That doctor's going to go away for a really long time. He went in after the fact and started writing up all of this crap as if he had actually been treating him. What he was really doing instead was showing up and just dumping vials of this stuff on him. He was taking it IV. If you take this stuff intravenously, if you're taking a pill, anyway you take it, you're supposed to have a medical professional there. Because if the ship hits the sand, you're going to need things that are going to be used to bring you back out of it, right? Paddles, no joke, like all of that, a real no joke crash cart. But they were just letting this go on in his house. Anytime we open up even a little bit, we tend to let it get wild. And that's the problem. And that's why people like me have landed on Kratom. And you know something? Here's my problem with Kratom. You don't have any idea if what you're buying, right, is the same thing you bought the last time, even if it's in the same package. This stuff now is getting sourced out because the demand is through the friggin' roof, right? We've hit $1 billion. Don't get it messed up. If you know you're not getting tested, how hard would it be? How hard would it be? I'm not even trying to be a jackwagon, but how hard would it be to just dump in just a little bit of something else? It isn't going to get tested, right? And if you put in just trace amounts of nits, right? They're probably not going to test for it, even if they pulled open the bag. They might test for Fent. And by the way, Fent has been found in Google it. There are stuff that has ended up in bags of Kratom. Look, when there's nobody doing tests to say, here's the purity, here's how it's treated, we visit the factory, right? This kind of thing. You can hate big pharma, right? But I promise you, every friggin' OxyContin you ever did was exactly like the previous OxyContin you did, right? I promise. If it was coming from Pomfret, it was the exact same thing every time. Even Ludes, right? Go back as far as you want. A pill was a pill was a pill was a pill. This stuff and anything like it, anytime the stuff flies under the radar and is not being called a supplement, it's not being called, they live in this gray area, right? I mean, the Food and Drug Administration comes out and says, hey, don't do the black oil, right? For real. They issued press statements. Wait a sec, aren't you the boss? You're the Food and Drug Administration. If this stuff's killing people, why are you warning us and not saying stop doing it? Take it off the market. Make it a prescription, something. Because if it's killing people, that's a friggin' problem. This stuff's really bad in Florida. There's a ton of lawsuits right now, class action stuff. And you know how many beverages out there right now mix those two substances? And it's because Feel Free killed it. 32 million annually, right? That's a hell of a lot of money. Walking, 32. Ooh, that's a profitable business. And do you know why it's a profitable business? Because you're selling something addictive. Holy hell. They got to feel like they won the lottery. If you're buying from a reputable vendor and it's lab tested, then it's fine. Bunny, I won't argue that. Anything, right? If it's being sent to a lab and it's being lab tested, do you think that is the majority of the supply in this country? Because if you believe that is the case, you're mistaken. Is Kratom legal to buy? Depends on what state you're in. There are states that have taken a stance on this stuff and said, we're not going to do it anymore. 6, I believe. It's either 6 or 12. Vermont being one of them. I was blown away by that. I grew up there and they tend to lean a little bit. Lily Benjamin says, yo, dear Tommy. First time I read about K was cops were using it like chemical babysitter for calls suspected of mental health crisis. Didn't they smack down on police use? My goodness, I honestly had not heard of this being used in that fashion. Honestly, but that's a shocker. But like I said, in the old days, people still think I'm BSing, but there were cats that, especially the old, I won't say the facility. There was a jail in town that I lived in, and they changed the jail from this street up to the hill, and the hill was a brand new facility. But when they were down on that street, every dude that walked in there had a sap. I mean, they would hit you in the head with a little bag of leather shot. I mean, times have changed, I think. Bunny has good advice. Do not buy it from a gas station or a smoke shop or a head shop. You know what? This seems like pretty solid advice to me, right? If this is something you're going to do, take this, right? Take Kratom off the table. I don't care what substance we're talking about, right? If you find yourself in that death spiral where your tolerance and your dependence are running wild at the same time, right? Like you're miserable when you're not on this stuff. And in the beginning, it's just going to be a psychological thing. But if it starts with physical dependence, I mean, then we're making a deal with the devil that's tough, right? Bunny says pure leaf kratom only. Is Feel Free the brand name of kratom? Feel Free is a beverage that is sold across the U.S. in a little blue bottle about this high. I have seen it at 2 gas stations in my life. One was in Bug Tussle, Tennessee, and the other was in Arizona. But it's a little blue bottle, says Feel Free on the side of it. And when they first came out, they were not mentioning, right, that this was what was in it. It's only addictive if you're abusing the plant. With all due respect, everything, right? Everything is only addictive if you abuse it. If you're able to take a pharmaceutical and do exactly what it says on the side of the bottle, the doctor is not intending for you to get a second bottle of that ever. You got to wrestle with them. Pain meds for average stuff, molas out, whatever. You're not going to get more than a couple of weeks, and that's it, right? They're not going to write another one. If you do it just how it says it on the side, you're not opening yourself up to anything. But I went to a pain specialist, a pain management clinic, and if they gave me 300 oxys a month, I needed 350. If they gave me 350, I needed 4. And that's always the way it would have been. I promise you. That's who I am. My devil, the fight I can't win is the fight against the morphine molecule. It owns me. Because of that, anything that tickles the MU receptor, if I tried this stuff, I would be eating it by the handful within a couple of days. It's just how it works. But the average person is probably far more like Bunny. And the truth of the matter is the Tiana, the other stuff, the Zaza Red. Once again, if you took that stuff the way it's intended to be taken, it's a fantastic, right? By all accounts, it's a fantastic thing for a lot of people. A lot of people say that they really are helped with like an antidepressant kind of a quality with this stuff. There are people who say the same thing about Kratom. I get more hate mail, right? This is probably number 2 on my list of hate mail topics. When I do a topic and talk about this stuff, I get hate mail for days. And all I'm saying is, like with anything else, if this is a substance that you're not using yet, maybe don't start any substance that you're not using yet. That's pretty solid advice as far as I'm concerned. If you're already using it and you're using it responsibly, that's fantastic. And that's for anything else too. But if you find yourself, right, spending more and more money and more time consumed by either doing the substance, thinking about the substance, coming up with money to buy the substance, whatever the case may be. Very few people don't realize when something starts to get a little out of control. When it starts to get a little out of control, the fact that you can buy this shit without a prescription doesn't make it any less dangerous, right? If you begin to get out of control, it's not going to be very different when it all shakes out than if it was a pharmaceutical. I'm sorry. Now, again, if you're doing it the way the plant is supposed to be done, never a problem. But we're in a country that's cranking out stuff like concentrates, right? And even anything can be addicting, says James Collins, and he's right. I mean, honestly, anything can. But once again, no one seemed to have a problem with this crap, right? For centuries. But once we get it over here, it's always like, all right, man, there's got to be a way to make this crap 10 times stronger than it is, right? Everybody's taking more of it. They're trying to catch a buzz out of it. Let's make it way stronger. Is there a way we can make shots out of it? Can they smoke it? For real, is there a way to put this in a rig? Maybe bang it. Is there a way to bang this stuff? You think it's an accident that one of the companies is selling it in what looks like a syringe? I mean, holy hell. Literally, you screw the top off and push the bottom in. It seems to me like maybe they're targeting cats like myself. I don't know. Yeah, old scarily, this I saw within the last yearish. I'll research it for the chat. Maybe I can be better informed instead of spilling the darn tea all over myself. Well, you know what? It's like I said, the last time I did this, I mentioned Kratom deaths and people went ballistic. Tommy, every one of those overdoses have other drugs that contributed. There's never been a case where there's no drug in the body except Kratom. It's never happened. Now research that and send me the hate mail. I promise you. Go out and research that now and send me the hate mail, because the number of cases, and again, if you take enough of anything, I'm not joking, take enough of anything, and it's probably stands a chance of killing you. Corn, right? Sit down with 46 cans of corn. I don't think we're intended to eat it like that. And that may sound silly as hell, but I promise you, someone that's doing 6 or 7 of these concentrates to try to catch a buzz. Once again, the idea was you take some leaves off of this tree. They're taking, piles this big and trying to get it down into, because this is the nature of who we are, right? Can we freebase it? Is there a way to put this thing in a vein or smoke it? Because really, I mean, best delivery methods. Right? We definitely take everything and try to abuse it. It's in our nature. I'm sorry. Tommy, I'm the same way. Well, it used to be. I've gotten better over the past year. I'd go through 168 pills in 6 days, then suffer till I went back to the doc the next month. Oh, man. See, and if you're getting better at controlling it, harm reduction, by the way, is a beautiful thing. But if you're getting better at controlling it, that's a really good sign. I'm serious. That's not in my wheelhouse. I promise you, I don't have the capacity to get better trying, right? Impossible. It just is. And it doesn't matter. I mean, I've tried it every way you could try it. I used to give my friend Jack my stash. I'd say, take this home. Because if I keep it here, I will stay up until the sun comes up doing it. A drug that should put you to sleep. But I won't stop. I'm like the lab rat. It really was that bad. And I would give it to him to take. And when he would come back, I would tear back into it. But there was no way for me I was never able to do that. Not from the very first time I tried that substance when I wasn't in pain. I had done painkillers for years, but I was in desperate need of painkillers after surgeries. Like I skied and abused the crap out of my body, right? Back flips, and I did some really rugged stuff on skis. If you've ever seen any of my other stuff, you've probably seen pictures of it, but I did stuff that can tear your body up. I've had a lot of surgeries and I've wrecked myself. And I spent years taking pain meds. And it may sound stupid as hell, but if you're in a bunch of pain and you're taking pain meds, they're not giving you a buzz. I promise. They're not. It's when there's no pain there to treat. It's like the pain meds gets in there and looks around like, where's the pain at? Nothing? All right. Well, then we'll treat some spiritual and some psychological pain, right? We'll get that kind of pain. Got an ex-girlfriend that bums you out? We'll take care of that. Don't worry about it. Somebody just died? Don't worry about it. I'll take care of that. You haven't paid rent in 4 months? They're about to take your kid? Don't trip. I can take all that away. All of it. You won't care within seconds. I promise. Within seconds. It doesn't touch the respiratory depressant. I beg to differ. I beg to differ. Now, correctly, but that is a drug that is not being done correctly, and it absolutely will cause respiratory depressant. Absolutely it will. I promise. I promise. Research it. Absolutely. In overdose quantities, this stuff absolutely cuts down and causes respiratory depressant. Yeah, see, Bunny, I'm gonna not argue this point for real. There's 9 minutes left in this show, and what I'm not going to do is wrestle with anybody. You go out and find, because this is not difficult to look at, where the only thing listed is the toxicity of the substance found in Kratom. Nothing else. Nothing else in the test. Now, you could say, well, it'd make him throw up. It would make him do. It didn't, right? There are deaths. There are people suing right now and getting paid. 11 million was the last settlement. There are people getting paid because people are dying, right? Are dying. The study that you're referring to is 41 people, right? It's not peer reviewed. Come on now. Come on. Come on. Right? The people, seriously, look at the Kratom studies. We're not going to make 9 minutes. I promise. I'm not wrestling with any of you. Powder, leaf, tea, it's not what we're talking about. It's not what we're talking about. Look up black, right? Look up black kratom oil. Read what has been said about that stuff, right? Read what is said about that stuff. But again, here's the thing. With all due respect to you, you're not taking over my program, right? And if you try to, I'm going to kick you out of here because it's just a pain in my ass. Send me an email. Bring me all of the evidence you'd like to bring on, and I'll let you come on here and do a Let's Get Everybody on Kratom show. Won't that be a joy? This barely tickles the MU receptor. I got an idea. Seriously, disappear. No shit. Is it better than heroin? Yeah. But if that's where we're setting the bar, well, then we're screwing up pretty heavy. Feel me? If the bar is, well, it's a little better than Fent. Yeah, what's not better than Fent? Seriously, what's not better than Fent? Kestrel says, Tommy, now I want to try the black kratom oil. Tommy's version of dare. See, no question, right? I've said this before. Man. These concentrates and this stuff that even in states that are allowing kratom to be legal are removing these products. Also, advertising what people are actually taking, right? The early days of Feel Free, the fact that these people were drinking something that had a substance in it that they didn't realize was in it, I think that person should be taken out back and shot. For real. If I was taking something that I thought was straight kava, right, and I found myself developing a physical dependency to the stuff, right? And you know what? You can say that stuff doesn't happen, but there's tens of thousands of people that are showing up in rehab centers, dope sick, from the stuff that these places are selling. Sorry, it's happening, right? In 3 years that I've been doing this, the number of people that have come to me with their lives shattered by this crap. I'm not making this stuff up, right? We've been doing this 3.5 years. And when they first started coming in, I used to think, what a bunch of candy asses. For real. You're not telling me that kicking this is like kicking smack. I'm sorry, you're not. And then I met some people that have kicked both and said, nah, man, this stuff's so hard on your stomach, you won't believe it. It's like if you smoke smack, like this is a stomach addiction. And when you get sick on this stuff, it is miserable, right? Miserable. Yeah, Tramadol has killed people. I'm glad that you're not advocating for extracts. I've said this, listen carefully. I don't care if you snort blow, right? Straight up. I don't care what drug you do, as long as the drug doesn't own you. Because in this country, we took a drug, right, like blow, and said, all right, can we make this stronger? Well, if you put it with baking soda, add a little water, right, cook that crap, we can rock this stuff up. And when you smoke it, you won't believe how much stronger it is. You'll hear people say, yeah, I snorted it until the first time I smoked it, and I never snorted it again. Those people will also say, I smoked that crap until the first time I put it in a vein, and then I never did it any other way. It's the constant progression. If someone came here earlier tonight and said, I'm taking this stuff every day, I take it as a painkiller, I'm not progressing to more amounts, God bless you, right? Go be fruitful and multiply, right? Be happy. I'm not here bad-mouthing the substance. I'm bad-mouthing the abuse. Margaret says, do you think marijuana is dangerous? I do not. I don't. Now, I think that the push toward trying to turn this stuff into something stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger is a road that we may not be so happy we went down eventually. I'm a little concerned that how much stronger the stuff is getting each year, right? And the fact that they're making stuff like shatter. Again, I didn't abuse this stuff, but the concepts to me are, once again, it seems like we're taking something that's maybe not such a dangerous thing and trying to make it stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger. You know, this phenomenon where all of a sudden you start vomiting. It's three initials, and unfortunately, because of my problem, I can't remember what those three things are. But there's a thing where you start to vomit constantly, right? Constantly. I don't remember that at all growing up. Do you? Nature usually does get it right? And I kind of feel that way. Look, the people that I've seen that are going in and doing therapy with dissociative drugs, the people that have been using psilocybin, I have seen a far greater result with those people than I have with people who are doing stuff like MDMA or ketamine. I do think that Mother Nature tends to get it right, and that man tends to screw that up, in all honesty, right? Alcohol is not naturally occurring, right? We have to get creative and let stuff rot, right? It's a beautiful concept. Sadly, I've made a lot of homemade hooch. Jane Aldrich, you're welcome, man. Well, and Shane makes a good point. He says, what people don't understand is you can almost OD and die on anything if taken in such excess that the heart or brain can't handle the chemical overload that it's not used to. Very few things won't. There's a lot of truth to this. Unfortunately, right? Unfortunately, this is something that is sold, and it's sold in places that bongs are sold in, right? It's sold in places where toot grinders and shit like that are sold. This is something that there's already a mindset. Follow me? Like, this is already a let's get high, right? And sadly, like everything else, if you take someone that's doing 6 of these concentrates, all right, how many of those capsules does that equal? Right? Or how many leaves does that equal? How much over the top of this crap are we doing? How much more of this, right? Because there's a lot of truth to the fact that, hey man, if you do anything to the extent that a lot of people are doing this, then we're opening ourselves up to a hell of a lot of trouble. And I firmly believe that. Do send your hate mail to TommyScoville@gmail.com. Hey, listen, man, I swear to God, I don't care what drug you do. 3% of people who do any drug are going to crash and burn. That's really how it works out, right? With certain substances, they'll claim it's a little higher than that. But the vast majority of people who do drugs don't have a problem with drugs. People hate hearing that, but it's the truth. The vast majority of people who do drugs just do drugs. They screw around with them and they may mess up their finances, and their girlfriend may get pissed and walk. Those kind of things that happen to them, right? But spiraling out of control and ending up in prison happens to a very small segment of the population. But that segment of the population does incredible amounts of damage, right? Hundreds of thousands of dollars a year to the economy and to the society per person. I was probably good for a little more than that. I'm worried anytime we let a substance go buck wild any way we want it to. We have a history of doing this, right? This is not unheard of. We very often let things go wild until we shouldn't. Benzedrine was a hell of an example, right? You could just go buy Benzedrine anywhere for the longest period of time, and they made it sound like the stuff was harmless. And I promise you, Benzedrine wasn't harmless, right? There's old enough people around here that, you know what? Three sounds low, but that's no. I'm not saying that only 3% are going to get addicted. I said 3% are going to drive the ship into the dirt, right? They're literally going to crash the plane nose first into the ground. 3%, people like me. And we usually end up doing life or we end up dead. It's very rare that one of those 3% escapes. But a whole lot more than that are going to end up with their life screwed up, right? Alcohol screws up the lives of people that aren't addicted to it on a daily basis. You know how many people are going to get a DWI this weekend and kill someone in the process? And it might be the third time they've ever had anything to drink, right? Their life just changed forever, but they're not an alcoholic. You follow me? These substances, you don't have to be a drug addict to have a substance destroy your life. But if you're a drug addict, the process of getting off this stuff becomes a whole lot more difficult. And the reason that people like me exist is because if you go someplace normal and you say, I went to prison for 56 months, then I got out, so relieved, and I went and did some heroin. Anyone logical says, you did what? You knew if you did smack again, you were probably going back to prison, but you did it anyway. This doesn't make any sense to me. Well, of course it doesn't, right? We don't have the same brain. I'm not being funny. My brain isn't like yours, I promise. But there are people for whom I say that to, and they go, oh, yeah. I mean, you sit in prison going, I can't believe they took that stuff from me. And you get depressed, and depression's not something you've felt in your entire life, right? Because every time depression came on, you did another shot. Or anytime you got too happy, you did another shot. I use that stuff to keep myself right here, right? For decades. Life is a lot more interesting without that crap in my system. It really is. It's a lot more interesting. I feel blessed. Phoebe, thank you so much for the support. I really do appreciate it. All right, people. Did you see the lifeboat? Hey, if you were addicted to an FDA-approved drug for 11 years and whole leaf kratom broke your chains of addiction, then I couldn't be happier for you. For real. That is a beautiful thing. That is absolute harm reduction. If the addiction that you traded was, so I got to assume it was either a benzo or an opiate, right? Because there's not too much else FDA approved that you could get addicted to. I guess there are some barbs, right? Some barbiturates that are still on the market. Not a lot of them, but there are some. Anyway, so that's a good trade. And I've always been the person that if somebody says I traded this drug for that drug, as long as you didn't trade crack for meth, where you go, yeah, I don't know if is that really that good a trade? I don't know. That doesn't sound like that good a trade to me. Or I traded meth for heroin. Yeah, I don't know. And people that trade anything for alcohol scares the crap out of me because I've watched what alcohol does to people. Weed, a lot of people do what they call California sober, right? And those are people that have decided they're going to smoke weed instead of doing some of the other drugs. Then for some people, that's a miracle. I'm never going to bust that person's balls. Why would I say to that person, why are you smoking weed? That's a lot better than what you were doing, right? So if that's what happened, well, then I am so happy for you, my friend. In fact, here, check this out. I am this happy for you I really am. I too traded one addiction for another, and it was a great trade. I stayed within the pharmaceutical community, but for me, it was the greatest trade ever. It's the reason you're here listening to me. I promise. If I didn't make that trade, we'd have never met. Unless I was trying to steal something from you. All right, people. That's about the end of that. Thank you for the spirited conversation. It's always a good time when we bring up Kratom. Tomorrow we will be talking about gun control, abortion, and am I leaving anything out? Who you like for president? I'm kidding. We're not going to talk about any of those things. We'll see you tomorrow, people. Between now and then, reach out and try to save somebody.